My name is Dave Dawson, and I'm the coordinator of the Engineering and Computer Technology Department Information Technology program here at the University of West Florida. The kinds of jobs that people get with the degree that we award generally run in the areas of information technology directors or director of operations, systems administrators. People manage the IT strategy for large organizations. There's a tremendous range of flexibility in the field. Of course, IT has changed quite a bit from the old days. In the old days, people did computers as something in addition to what they did for their job. But now, in most cases, computers are people's jobs, and the networks that support those things are very important. The people that graduate from this program are trained to think strategically about information technology. And rather than becoming a passive service provider in the organization where they simply respond to the demands of the organization, the folks from this program, when they go out and begin their careers, they become the people that the organization turns to figure out ways to exploit technology, to bend technology to the purposes of the organization, to confer some sort of competitive advantage over the other people in the field. And so they play a very important role. The other part of that equation is because they become important to the organization strategically, they also tend to be a little safer when the economy ebbs and flows. Our objective is to get folks out of those entry-level jobs in the computer end of the business and into the strategic core of the organization, where they become members of the leadership team. And so that's the sort of the target group that we want our people to prepare to be. The kinds of courses that students take in this kind of program are very broad, and they're also very flexible. Of course, you'll see the standard things. You're going to take some programming languages. You're going to take some networking technology classes, and the technology is always the underlying thrust of the program. So you have a good focus on the specific kinds of technologies: networking, networking operations, how do you generate a request for proposals and drive a project from beginning to finish, the project management piece. So you have those fundamental classes that everyone takes, but you have a lot of flexibility in these types of programs because IT is a very heterogeneous field. The concerns of someone who manages the IT systems in a large medical facility are quite different than the concerns for someone who manages the IT infrastructure for a movie production studio, for instance. And so you have a very broad range of skill sets that are necessary. And so you have to sort of develop an idea of the direction that you want to go and start finding courses that support that. Probably about halfway to two-thirds of the way through your program, you really want to start honing in on those specific kinds of technologies or that area of emphasis. Another very common path for people in IT to take is to supplement their technology courses with business classes, and that's very, very important these days. It's very important for people who become IT professionals, particularly in the leadership roles, to understand the things that are driving the organization, their concerns, their constraints, their focus, the way that they measure things. Those are all extremely important, and that's why in our particular program, for instance, we also require that you take an ethics class, because ethics is a very big issue in this field. We also require that you take a management class, a basic management class, and then we also lay over all of that three big focuses. One of the focuses is on project management, the idea of conceiving a project, determining what the issues are, figuring out the steps to actually define what it is that you want to accomplish with your project, and then driving that project all the way from writing the request for proposals that other contractors bid on to create the project and get it started, all the way through to the end to measuring whether the project did what you said it did. The other thing is complex problem solving. The reason that we have you take 2 programming languages is not so much that we want you to become expert programmers, but that you get lots of exercise in solving complicated problems. You develop methodologies and strategies for breaking down complicated problems into small things that you can solve a piece at a time and then put it all together. So complex problem solving is another piece. The third piece is small group communication. You will never work on a technology project by yourself. You will always be working in a team. Many times you'll be working with people that are not even physically in the same place where you are. And so you're going to have to develop methods for communication. And there's actually 2 halves of that job. There's communicating within your project group to figure out what people are doing and to communicate what has to be done to your team. And then also communicating outside to the rest of the organization, often very complicated technological problems for whom technology is not necessarily a burning passion. And so your job is to phrase these complicated technological issues in terms that are relevant to making good business decisions. And that's a very important part of the process. And so we have classes that focus on that quite a bit also. A lot of people come into information technology from other disciplines. It's very rare that someone starts out coming out of high school deciding that they want to go to an IT degree, because they're not very commonly known. Most people will gravitate towards computer science because it has the word computer in it, and it seems like a logical place to go for these kinds of skills. But they get 2 years into the program and they discover that the computer science degrees are really focused on things within the box, we say. They're focused on programming and application development, software engineering, those kinds of issues, and there's not so much of an emphasis on the larger systems and putting those systems to work in the context of a big organization. And so we have people coming in from computer science to information technology because they discover that this is where our focus is. A lot of people come in from business as well. A lot of people start out in a business degree, and then they take an IT-related class while they're in their business program and discover that they have an affinity for it and come migrate into our programs. We also have a lot of people that are coming in from from the military that have been exposed to technologies while they're in the military and are now back in school and are getting a degree in this field. I think that you'll also find, well, one of the things that's a little unusual about information technology programs is they typically have an internship or some sort of capstone experience at the end that you can do. One of the things that I'd like to speak very frankly about in considering the kind of path that you're going to take in your college career is to think about the market itself. In this market, in the IT market, there is a very strong focus on professional certifications. Those are very, very important in the job world here, because there are very specific types of technologies that are very important and that are business critical to organizations, and they need experts in those specific kinds of things. But those kinds of certifications are typically not things that you'll find in a university environment. Those things, many times, you'll find them at local community colleges, the state colleges, and in actual commercial education institutions. The kinds of certifications I'm talking about, things like the Microsoft certifications, the MCSA or the MCSE, or the Cisco networking certifications, the CNA. In some cases, particularly if you're working for the federal government, they like for you to have some security credentials like the CISSP certificate. And so the thing that I always tell people that are interested in this program is that the degree itself is just not enough. You're going to need a good suite of professional certifications that are related to the area that you want to focus your efforts in, and then also the degree. And I always say the certifications will get you the interviews, but the degree will get you the job ultimately, and also allow you to progress through the organization. And it's really a pretty good strategy to get those certifications very early while you're young, and you can get these things very easily locally. Get those professional certifications, and then get an entry-level job in the industry somewhere. Because one of the things that we know about information technology related organizations is that they invest very heavily in their employees. And so a good strategy is to use the certifications to get that entry-level job, and then get the organization to pay for your college. That's a very common method. I'd say probably about 50 to 60% of the people in the program that I teach are people that have done exactly that. They got excellent professional certifications. They got ASs or AASs, and then came in to a job somewhere, and after they've been in the job for 3 or 4 years, they started taking advantage of the professional development opportunities that the organization offered, and went back to school to get their degree so that they can advance in the organization. So that's a very common path. It's not the only path. There are a lot of other methods to doing this, but I do really strongly recommend that you have that full complement of credentials. You want to have the certifications, and you want to narrow those down. You want to narrow those down into specific areas where you intend to focus. If you're going to go into network operations, then you probably want to be looking at the Cisco certifications. If you're going to go into systems administration in a large organization that's Windows-based, for instance, and a lot of operations are Windows-based, then you'll get something like the MCSA or the MCSE. But that's the sort of intelligence and research that you have to develop as you're thinking about what you want to do ultimately for a career, finding out what the requirements are for the people that do these kinds of jobs. And it doesn't hurt to visit organizations and just ask their IT people how they got in their job, what path they followed, and what kind of programs they have for professional development.